Hey everybody, how's it going? I'm just trying this again. I think I'm live now. Come say hi if you get a minute, and I'd love to hear how your weekend has been. I'm just logging on so I can see. Hold on. I'd love to know how your weekend has been, and also what kind of like fun autumn things have you guys been doing? Um, Today is Meal Planning Monday. Yay! So, in a little bit, I'm going to share some of the ways that I have prepped my meals this week, organized, just sort of did my research to figure out what I'm going to make this week for my family, for myself. And I would always love to hear how you structure and organize your week around meals. And, we're always trying to support each other here because, look, 2020 has been rough. And whether you're stuck at home or you're kind of in a new situation that you're not accustomed to, we can all benefit from figuring out how to nourish ourselves, how to feed our families, how to stay healthy, how to boost our immune system during these really, really unprecedented times. Hey, Nellie, what's up? How are you? Long time no speak. And today I wanted to talk about one of the four common reasons why we tend to stay stuck. So, like, whether it's you want to make a behavioral change with maybe you want to exercise more, or maybe you want to start eating more vegetables and fruits, and you need to, or like, we don't often need help with the knowing. We know what to do. What we really need help with is the actual doing. So, part of what I do is help you bridge the gap between the knowing what you should do, learning about your body so you can actually figure that out, and then actually doing it. And so there are actually four things that I've identified that after doing this for 20 years, and I got my master's in psychology, so I'm really interested in human behavior, and I'm also just like fascinated by how we eat and like some of the reasons behind why we eat, and so many different reasons, whether we're bored or we're stressed or we're sad or we're starving or we're exhausted. There are so many reasons behind our choices with what we eat. And I'm particularly interested also in consistency and how to help people in a consistent and compassionate way start to build these healthy behaviors into their lifestyle without all the guilt, without all the beating yourself up, with all the tug of war, with all the I should be doing this, and really have it come from this like compassionate place, from this like easy, effortless place, because you're not doing it for anybody else. You're doing it for yourself, and you're doing it in a way that makes sense to you. And I think this is a problem with a lot of the programs out there that are trying to help people to get healthier, to eat healthier, to do more self-care and things like that, is that it's so prescribed. It's like, and it's around this concept that here I have the Shangri-La thing. I know exactly what you need to do, and you just have to do this, 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 and this, and you're going to get what you want. And it sounds great, and a lot of times it works, but if you're not actually taking the time to learn what you need, like, there could be a million programs, and I could resonate with one of that and one of that and one of that. But what often was the case is that I would be trying to shove a square peg in a round hole. Do you know what I mean? Like Weight Watchers, for instance. I did Weight Watchers many times, and I remember like if I remember like I would be out of points by like 2 o'clock, right? And then I'd be like, okay, I have two choices. I can either go to the gym for an hour, or I can eat spinach for dinner. Like there's no flexibility, and you get really caught up in the guilt and like doing it wrong and feeling like if you do anything wrong, you're just not going to get what you want. And so my approach to all of these things is it's more about just learning about yourself, about your circumstances, about your biochemistry, about your cravings, about your habits, and actually moving towards them as opposed to dissociating from them or judging them or being critical of them. Because we have to understand where we're at first before we make any changes. Okay, Nellie says, had a great weekend. Went to see, oh, that's so nice. I love that. Just the connection. You had connection with people. You got into nature. The simplicity is just beautiful. It gets overwhelming with all the choices. Yes, it absolutely does. And so the first reason that I want to talk about is a lot of times you're not on board with the why. Okay, so you've probably heard over the years different iterations of this. You have to exercise for at least a half hour a day, or um, you know you must eat 5 vegetables and fruits a day, or whatever it is, whatever sort of rule or sort of idea or concept that you've kind of got stuck with you, like no eating after 6, or can't have carbs. That's bad. This is good. I think a lot of the times we're very caught up with the should, like because we're not feeling the way we want to in our bodies, we assume, well, I'm doing it all wrong and this person knows better. And if I don't do it perfectly, I'm going to fail, right? I felt that way. I've micromanaged myself on programs, like clenching my fists every step of the way, only to be like, the second that I screwed up or the second that I did something that was antithesis of the diet or the program, whatever, I would be back at square one. And so a lot of the time it's about being on board with the why. You're not going to make meaningful change. You're not going to make changes if you yourself, like you can understand intellectually why exercise is good. You can understand intellectually why you should eat vegetables, and we all should, of course. I mean, we all know that, right? Again, it's the bridging the gap between the knowing and the doing. But if you're not personally on board with the why, it's going to be very hard for you to do it. For instance, if you heard, oh, I'm so glad you can relate to that. Like, I'm not going to like name names, but like in my past, like I used to hear like, do not drink juice. Do not drink juice. It's bad. It's liquid calories. You're going to gain all this weight, right? So I built up a fear of juice, of all things. Like I was scared of juice. And I told the story a few months ago, but basically there was some cranberry juice on the table, and I guess we get juice occasionally. And I was like, ooh, I want some. And I remember like, no, but you can't, you're not supposed to. And then I literally had to do a double take and be like, oh, no, I can have juice. That's just the story. Is it the healthiest choice I've ever made? No, but I trust myself that I'm going to have a little sip and get what I need from it and move on. And so again, like you really have to, that's, I guess, a little bit different than what I'm trying to articulate here, but really you have to be on board with the why it's right for you. And if you're not on board with that why, it's going to be very hard for you to continue to do it. The second thing is you might be totally on board with the why. You know exactly that you should be doing this. Like, I know I should be drinking 80 ounces of water a day. I'm down with the benefits. I understand it. It makes sense. I've done it before. But I just don't feel like I'm willing to do it. You know what I mean? There's a difference there. Like when you have a real heart to heart with yourself, sometimes you realize I understand emotionally and intellectually why I should drink 6 to 8 glasses of water a day. But I might not do it because deep down I'm not willing to do what it takes in order to make it happen. Okay? So that's another sort of reason that we grapple with. Like we don't have the energy, we don't have the bandwidth, or we don't feel like putting in the effort, or I'm just not willing to do it right now. And that's totally fine. But just being conscious and aware of that choice, I think, is really, really important, rather than saying it's something else. Like if you really don't feel like you have the bandwidth and you're not willing to do it, even though you know it's good for you, be upfront with yourself about that, because then you can sort of figure out what the resistance is and understand it better. The third reason, and I'm just going to check the comments here for a second, okay? And feel free to write down, like, if you've had experiences with this before where you're like, oh God, I know I'm supposed to go for this walk and I really don't want to go. And I know it's really good for me and I know it's going to make me feel better, but I'm just not willing to do it. I'd rather take a nap, or something like that, where you felt like a real resistance to something and maybe you didn't know why, or maybe it just really kept you stuck, in some way. And then, of course, it's followed by a lot of guilt and a lot of like, if this is something I'm supposed to do and I can't do it, I'm back at square one, and why is this so hard, right? The third thing is sometimes it's just a logistical problem, meaning you're on board with the why, you're willing to do it. Like, just tell me. I can't tell you how many people have said to me, Jenny, I know what to do and I know I need to do it, but just tell me how to do it. Just tell me what to do and hold me accountable and I'll do it. And when that happens, it's because it's a logistical problem. So, you haven't built it into your routines yet. You haven't figured out all the little micro steps that are actually necessary in order for you to do the thing that you want to do. And I'm going to give you a quick example. Like, I may know that I need, for my mental health and for my physical well-being, I know that going for walks in nature is really important, just like Nellie, like being around nature, being outside. And then there are times that I really don't want to do it, just really don't. And sometimes if I have a plan in place ahead of time, so I'm kind of creating my own accountability, I will create a pre-plan And as silly as it sounds, it really, really helps, because if I lay out my sneakers right in front of my bed and I set my alarm and I put a reminder on my phone, Jenny, don't forget to go for your walk. Those 3 steps alone are making it more likely that I'm going to do the thing that I wanted to do and said I was going to do than if I didn't put those steps in place. So I hope that makes sense. Like, I have an accountability reminder on my with my alarm. The shoes I'm going to trip over those shoes. I got to put them on. You know what I mean? Like, and I've said this before, but the hardest thing is not the doing. The hardest thing is going from nothing to something. And if you can get from nothing to something, then you've got momentum, because a body in motion stays in motion, a body at rest stays at rest. So if I do those 3 things and I actually get outside, okay, it doesn't matter if I go for a 10-minute walk, it doesn't matter if I go for an hour walk, I've done something. And I think a lot of us have to grapple with this black and white thinking, this dichotomous thinking, where if I'm not doing everything that I said I was going to do, and I'm not doing everything that the program said I should do, then it means nothing, or that I'd rather just do nothing. And it's very hard to lean into the gray, to get into this like middle ground where you say, even if I go for 10 minutes, that's going to benefit my health. That's going to benefit my mental well-being, my emotional well-being. And so to get out of this perfectionist mindset and just start focusing on logistics. What steps do you need to have in place in order to make this thing happen? Okay, does that make sense? Just tell me in the chat if what I'm saying makes sense, if you're resonating with it. And then the last one, so we've already talked about not being on board with the why. Like, you've heard it, you've seen science around it, like, yeah, but you're not really personally invested in it. That's what I meant. You're not personally invested in it. The second one is you are invested in it. You think it's a great idea. You're on board with the why, but you're deep down, you're not really willing to do what it needs to happen and to make it work, right? And then the third one is you just have a logistics issue. Like, you haven't really thought through the steps necessary to make the thing happen. The last one is a little bit more tricky. I love that, pre-planning and putting on my clothes and shoes out the night before. You're welcome, Nellie. It's so such a mundane, silly little tip, but it really works. Because I'm already thinking about my to-do list when I wake up, and I see my shoes there, and I'm like, oh yeah, got to start with the walk. Everything's going to be great once I go for this walk. And 9 times out of 10, it is a lot better, to be honest, than when I decide not to go for that walk, or whatever it is, or stretching or yoga. The last one is about self-sabotage. Now, self-sabotage is really tricky. It's really clever. And it's really difficult to overcome, because you could have all these other components in place. You've got a rock solid plan. You're willing to do it. You're on board. But maybe there's a thing deep down where you just kind of get in your own way. And sometimes it can be subtle. Sometimes it can be obvious. But self-sabotage is really it's our psyche's way. It's a clever way of keeping us safe, comfortable, and familiar. So you might do something like, I will do it, but I'm going to just do it in a few hours. So you might procrastinate. You might try to talk yourself out of doing it, like play a little tug of war with yourself. Self-sabotage shows up in so many ways. And the thing I really want to impart is that it has to do with the fact that you're scared. You're scared to make change. We're all scared to make change. We all want to live in our comfortable bubbles, right? Like, we know what we know what we don't know, and we just want to stay in our lane, in our comfortable lane. And so self-sabotage is a way that we can make peace with us staying comfortable. That's all it is. It's just a fear of getting out of our comfort zone. And so when you can recognize that, and you can start to listen and really get to know your self-sabotage excuses, like, oh my gosh, they're going to be so front and center. You're going to be like, oh, that's self-sabotage. That's what's happening right now. But you first have to understand that it exists, and it exists as a way to protect you. It's not like self-sabotage and it's, why am I getting in my own way, and why, no. It's to protect you. It's to keep you safe, because maybe there's a lot of other things going on in your life that is stressful, and you want something to be easy. You just want something to be easy. And so even though we may intellectually know that doing the thing, the walk, whatever, is actually going to be better for us long term, we will still make a choice that keeps us comfortable. So I actually was talking about this with a client the other day, where, if you say no to the cake, let's say there's a cake in front of you and you've told yourself already, I'm not having any sugar, I'm not doing carbs anymore, or whatever rule or idea you have in your mind. I've already had too many sweets this week, I shouldn't have this cake, right? The second you say that, first of all, is when the tug of war starts to happen, right? Because you already know you want the cake and now you're telling yourself you can't have it. But it also like creates this other sort of energy around you where like you can sort of begin to self-sabotage and start to say, well, if I don't have the cake, there may be a consequence, there may not. I may lose weight if I decide not to have this cake, or I may not. There may be no consequence whatsoever. And then I've restricted myself and I've said no to that cake. And then on the flip side, you could say, well, I could have this cake and maybe nothing will happen. Maybe I'll feel okay. Maybe the dairy won't bother me. Maybe I'll lose weight, and wow, I had cake and I still lost weight, right? Do you see the playing the games, the self-sabotage? What it really is important here is that when you make a choice in the moment, it's because, and you're not thinking about your long-term goals and your long-term wishes, and you feel bad because you've self-sabotaged again. Just remember, you're doing it so that you can feel safe. It's actually a way of giving yourself self-care. But what we know is that when we can push ourselves even just slightly out of our comfort zone, even just a little bit, you can make progress and learn and create new neural pathways that are going to actually change habits. And it's really fascinating when that can happen, but it can't happen until you start to understand all your clever little games and excuses and reasons why you're resisting, and start to learn a path where you can, with support and with gentle accountability, help you to do something different, to expand into a zone that is a little bit more uncomfortable. Not the stress zone, not to the point where you're like burnt out or that it's not sustainable, but also not staying in place either. And that's one of the things that I am really, really focused on in my newest program called Replenish. And I've opened up the waiting list, and part of the program is going to be this very thing, like how do we look at our resistances around healthy eating and healthy behaviors and self-care, and how do we learn how, in the face of all of this protection in the form of self-sabotage, how we can move past that and start to really recreate a relationship with food that is balanced and healthy and delicious and joyful, because that's what it could be, you guys. It can absolutely be like that. And a lot of us really need to focus on that very aspect, the behavioral aspect of our habits and food habits, as it relates to our sense of comfort, our ability to manage stress, and lots of other things too. So I want to just take this opportunity to welcome you to the waiting list. Doors are open, there's a little red carpet, and it doesn't lock you into anything, so don't worry. It's just basically if you're interested in hearing more about this offer, I've opened up the waiting list, and all you need to do is go to bit.ly/getreplenished, and right away I'm going to send you a resource guide. It's 11 pages, and it's some of my top strategies for replenishing your gut health, so you can sort of feel replenished right away. And you're going to also get a couple of emails from me. I promise I won't swarm your mailboxes about the program, about how you can apply, how you can book a call with me and talk more about it. And I'm really excited about it. It's going to be not only about behavioral change, so like building consistency and creating meaningful long-term change around your health in a compassionate way and in a way that feels empowering to you. But it's also going to be about restoring your gut, giving you like really tangible, concrete ways through one-on-one coaching, and there's also a group aspect to it as well, how you can identify your eating psychology, your habits, and resistances, and so you can tap into that, so we can learn what gets you in a parasympathetic response, how we can get you to relax. Because make no mistake, one of the main reasons why we struggle with food is because we're not relaxed around food. We have stories, we have fears, we have trauma, we have all kinds of things that come up around our comfort with food and our ability to nourish ourselves and our ability to feel like we can make choices that are joyful and healthy and balanced. And a lot of us don't believe that. And so that's another aspect of the program. And then, as many of you know, I've started this culinary nutrition program, and I'm studying to be a culinary nutritionist. And so another aspect of this program is going to be about me creating a meal plan for you it's completely personalized to you, who you are now, your biochemistry, your lifestyle, your nutritional needs, your gut flora. And because it's so personalized, you're going to feel so aligned with it, and it's going to be flavorful, and it's going to be easy, and it's going to be effortless. And I'm so stoked. I'm so excited about this offer. I feel like I've waited 15 years to do something like this. So I welcome you to the list. Again, it's bit.ly/getreplenished. Nothing to do right now. You're not locked into anything. It's just basically if you're interested in learning more. And I'm opening up times to have chats with people on the phone too. So if I'm going to leave in the comments my scheduler, so if you'd like to just book a free chat, we can talk about the gut health test, Excella. We can talk about some of the ways that you self-sabotage and find difficulties in sustaining healthy behaviors, and everything else. So thanks for listening. I told you I was going to go live more, so I'm playing every Monday, you and me, around this time. We're going to talk about different things. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave all your comments below and questions. Oh, Nellie, I'm just seeing these. I love that, creating change. Thank you so much. You're so welcome, Nellie. You're awesome. I adore you. And I hope to see you guys soon, and happy Monday. Bye.